Monday, October 14, the Word made flesh. Read John chapter 1, verses 1 to 3 and verse 14. What are these verses telling us that Jesus, God himself, did? And why is this truth the most important truth that we could ever know? Let's begin. John chapter 1 at verse 1. In the beginning was the Word, and the Word was with God, and the Word was God. He was with God in the beginning. Through him all things were made. Without him nothing was made that has been made. And verse 14, the Word became flesh and made his dwelling among us. We have seen his glory, the glory of the one and only Son who came from the Father, full of grace and truth. John starts his Gospel not with the name Jesus or his role as Messiah or Christ, but with the term Logos. Around the time John wrote, various philosophies used the term Logos to refer to the rational structure of the universe or to refer to the idea of logic and reason themselves. Also, the teaching of the influential ancient philosopher Plato had divided reality into two realms. One is the heavenly and immutable realm, where absolute perfection exists. The other is the realm here, perishable, changing, a very imperfect representation of the perfect realm above, wherever it supposedly existed. Plato never answered that question. Some philosophies identified the Logos as some abstract intermediary between the eternal forms and the perishable, earthly forms here. John uses the term in a completely different manner. He maintains that the truth, the Logos, is not some ethereal and abstract concept floating between heaven and earth. The Logos is a person, Jesus Christ, who became flesh and dwelt among us. As we read in John 1:14, the Word became flesh and made his dwelling among us. We have seen his glory, the glory of the one and only Son who came from the Father, full of grace and truth. For John, the Logos is the Word of God. More important, God communicated, that is, he revealed himself to humanity in the most radical way. God became one of us. In the Gospel of John, the Logos represents the eternal God who enters time and space, who speaks, acts, and interrelates with humans on a personal level. The eternal God became a human being, one of us. In John 1:14, the apostle indicates that the Logos became flesh and dwelt among us. The underlying Greek word translated dwelt meant to pitch a tent. John is alluding to Exodus 25 verse 8, where God told the Israelites to make a sanctuary, a tent structure, so that he could dwell in their midst. Exodus 25 verse 8 reads, "Then have them make a sanctuary for me, and I will dwell among them." In the same way, in the Incarnation, Jesus, the divine Son of God, stepped into human flesh, veiling his glory so that people could come in contact with him. And so to finish the day, dwell on the implications of what John has written here. God himself, the Creator, became a human being, one of us, and lived here among us. We haven't even gotten to his dying for us yet. What does this tell us about the reality of God's love for humanity? Why should we draw so much comfort from this amazing truth? This lesson was read by Dr. Percy Harrold for Christian Services for the Blind. Sponsored by the Sabbath School Department and distributed through Hope Channel Australia, this podcast is also redistributed by Hope Channel Germany, Christian Record Services for the Blind. It is also available on SoundCloud and through multiple podcast distributors, including Apple iTunes. And you can listen and watch at the same time on YouTube. Remember, God is always faithful.